So in this video, I wanted to share with you 5 things that I noticed that wealthy people do that I think we should all be doing in order to level up and take ourselves to level 2.0. So my name is Eddie and I am a therapist and a coach, and I am becoming more comfortable around the idea of embracing wealth and bringing wealth into my life. So, this is going to be a bit of a rant, but this is okay because this is going to be something that I am documenting. This is like the before and after, right? This is Eddie version 1.0, and I'm stepping into version 2.0. And so, as I'm thinking about stepping into version 2.0, I am thinking about studying the habits of the people that I want to be, right? And so if I think about finally embracing abundance and embracing wealth, it is not about like moving beyond this like manifestation space and affirmations and like actually studying the psychology around money and their habits. So this is what I notice, and this is where I feel the need to preface this by saying, like, I have been exposed to wealthy people, I would say my entire life, and like kind of by accident. And I laugh because I think that there's like some divine angel who has always been guiding me towards this space, but for whatever reason, subconsciously, I have rejected, right? I have rejected like actually embodying being a wealthy person, because I'm like, how is it that when I really think about my exposure to wealth, I have been around it my whole life. And so I have been lucky enough to just kind of like absorb these things like a sponge, but for whatever reason, it's been like Teflon and it has not stuck, right? And so I am doing the difficult work of dismantling like what is going on up here, what is going on in here that has rejected embodying the habits that I have seen all the time. And so as I'm offering these things to you, I recognize I already have exposure to these things. My work is undoing either the subconscious beliefs that I have that has not allowed me to like pair what I've observed to actual wealth. And this is kind of like an experiment of one, right? This is just me sharing my observations. These are the things that I'm going to be doing. And I'm on a journey to like, I'm an experiment of one. And either you want to join me on this ride or just, go along with me or see how I land. This is like November 2025. I just want to see where I'll be in a year, right? And so part of my journey is in studying people who have the things that I desire to have, which is now, again, when I'm saying money, it's like basically it's time freedom, it's money freedom, it's just like self freedom, right? And so when I talk about wanting to bring wealth into my orbit, it is basically saying that I am shooting for like physical safety, physiological safety, not having to worry about like if an emergency comes, like a flat tire or a medical bill, or I want to invest in something but I can't. Like, I want to position myself to have the kind of money or the kind of wealth that will allow me to have time freedom, money freedom, like choice freedom. This is for me what I'm talking about. And so part of my task has just been in observing the habits of people who have what I want. And when I observe these habits, I'm like, wait a minute, like I do these things. Like, what's going on? Like, what? Okay. So then now I'm recognizing that I have to do the work of looking at what are my subconscious beliefs around having money, which is making me reject it, which is making me self sabotage, which is making me just, like not then translate what I'm observing and habits that I I have these very similar habits, but it's not translating into my bank account, right? And so I'm like, okay, like there's a disconnect. And I think it's in here. Like what is and what I see, like there's a disconnect and I'm the disconnect. And so I have to do the work on myself to be like, I'm curious about like what are my beliefs about money? Where is there shame, or where is there conflict, or where is there mixed messaging around money? And so, you know, I'm going to share these habits, but I want to preface it by saying that you may be trying these things too, may not make a difference unless you're willing to do the work of like checking yourself and saying like, what's going on with me? Because you could say, Eddie, I did this, I did this, I did that. I'm still not like, welcome, join the club, right? Like, and so I'm going to preface it by saying that if you do these things and you're still not seeing like wealth or the thing that you want, it's also about pairing your own belief system and your own underlying values and your own underlying beliefs to challenge those things while you're also incorporating these habits. But like I said, I have shared, like, I have been exposed to these things. And so when I think about the 5 habits that I have observed in wealthy people, like, there are things that I feel like anybody can do, right? And so I say this to say it's not about having money and therefore you're able to do things. These are like free things that you can do. And and for me, when I think about the spaces that I have been in, where I have been in these rooms and I have been exposed to wealth, what I realize about myself is that there is something about me that people want to invite me into those rooms, right? And so I like blindly, like naively, like la 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 la, like, oh, am I being invited to a dinner where the plate, like it's a $500 a plate dinner? Like, oh man, like that, like there's also been this like whatever. Now, I recognize that it's been Teflon for me and it has not stuck because when I have been in these rooms, no one looks like me, right? And so I kind of had this subconscious thing, like that's only for them. That's not something that like I can have because no one looks like me, right? No one is an immigrant, female, minority, right? Like you might see Southeast, Asians like having the wealth. You might see, like white people having the wealth, like, but I never saw it. And so there was never this like, oh, I can have it too. Right. So I've been in the rooms, but I guess it just didn't register because I'm like, I never saw anyone like me who had it. And so you're like, oh, like this is not for me. This is for other people. This is for them. Right. And so I recognize in part that why it's been Teflon that I've been exposed to these environments, but have not like taken it on as like I can be one of you because there's no one else that looks like me. And I guess maybe I rejected being a trailblazer because I was like, who am I? Right? I grew up with immigrant parents where they were like, you put your head down and you work hard and you get a stable job and you get, health insurance and you get a pension and you put your head down and you don't make waves. Because as a black person, like people will like hurt you. They will take things from you. As an immigrant, like they will deport you. You are a guest in their country, and so you do not make waves, right? So I had my head down, I had the blinders on. I think inherently, like just my personality was such that I was always invited to these parties and these spaces, and I'm like Eddie, and I'm fun, and I'm just kind of like, I'm a curious cat, and I'm just always fascinated by things, and I think people wanted to be around me. I inherently, like, I think there's just something about my energy that people were like, I just like to be around her, right? So one of the things that I could say to you is, become a person that people want to be around, right? Like just be a be a person that people want to be around. Be reliable, be consistent, be helpful, be kind, be curious. Don't be judgmental. Like I think, and again, I will freely admit that when I was younger, I was so much more judgmental, right? But I think inherently, like I was just always someone who was like curious. I was very oblivious. I still am a little bit, but I'm always like, wow, right? Like I'm just, wow, like I'm always like learning, right? I'm just always like, what, wait, what? Like, what, wait, what? You did what? Okay, wait, what? Like, I'm just inherently a curious person, and I think people like that. And so I'm always being invited, right? I would say, I would say that my sense of humor, like my just ability to laugh also gets me in the room because I have been told that I have an infectious laugh, right? Because everything feels funny to me because I don't know, I'm just kind of like, oh my God, like this stuff is so funny. Like this life is so funny, right? And so again, I think energetically, I have always been the type of person that people like, I guess, want to be around. Hence, in part, why I became a therapist, because people have said to me like, it's so easy to talk to you. Like you are just so easy to talk to. And somebody had suggested like you should get paid to be a therapist. And I was like, yeah, okay, because the medical school thing didn't work out. And I was like, well, what's my plan B? I've always been told that people like talking to me, so I'm just gonna do that, right? I'm gonna be a therapist, and I have been lucky in that I have been successful, right? In that I have a lot of clients, but that has not translated to my bank account. And again, that is me recognizing that that is beliefs that I have internalized, part in part. That's like therapists don't make money. Therapists are supposed to help people, and it feels icky to make money off of people's problems. I have probably internalized those messages, hence why I've probably rejected opportunities to make money. So, but let's get back to like the top 5 things that I have noticed about wealthy people that I have noticed that I would recommend that you incorporate these things while you're pairing, questioning your underlying beliefs and values. Okay. The first thing, and I'm going to put on my glasses for this, right? So the first thing is like they expose themselves to art and music. There is very little TV watching. They are going to the ballet. They're going to the opera. They're going to museums. They're going to art galleries, right? And again, think about how you react to that idea of like hearing that wealthy people go to the museum or they go to the ballet. This is maybe why this is part of your problem, right? Because you don't realize, and I again was exposed to art and was exposed to classical music and was exposed to the ballet, like there is something that hits your brain center in such a way that I feel like it just makes your brain different. It makes your brain primed maybe for wealth, right? Like I love the classics. Like anybody will tell you that like my favorite books are the classics. I love Oliver Twist. I love the Canterbury Tales. Like there is just there is just something about studying philosophy and art and music and being around it. You ever wonder why wealthy people have art like all in their house? And again, it's like, oh, they could say, well, it's an asset or they have it or they're whatever. No, it is something about being exposed to art and classical music that just, your brain is different. It just makes your brain think differently. And so before you poo poo, like, I don't have it, I don't, like, buy art books, go to the library, look at art books. If you have an Alexa or if you have an iPhone, if you have a whatever, you can listen to classical music. You can just scroll art. You can, and I would not, I wouldn't scroll art. I would actually go to a museum. Like seeing art and seeing like the artist or seeing a vase, seeing like just the creativity of the artist or the sculptor or that it makes your brain think differently. I will do the research and see like, well, what is happening? Because statistically or scientifically, something is happening. But, you know, wealthy people are around art and music. Steve Jobs was notorious for like taking this calligraphy class, which then helped him think about how to create the keyboard for the iPhone. I mean, again, it just creates these things in your mind that makes you think differently about the world. And so expose yourself to art and music, little TV watching. I mean, I think some people are like, I never watch TV. I don't, I mean, I know wealthy people who watch TV, but they're so busy like living their best life that they're like, I don't have to, what is going to be better than my own life, right? Like what is the housewife's going to show me that like I'm doing it? I got to go. Like I got to go. Like I got to go to the ballet. Like I don't have time for TV watching, right? Like I got to go to this meeting. I got to go to bed. I don't have time for TV watching. I don't have time for the 10 o'clock, whatever. I don't have time for the news. I got to go to bed. I got to do the thing. And that's part number 2 is that wealthy people prioritize their health, right? Now, you get like a Warren Buffett and that guy is like, I drink a Coke and I like KFC and I like McDonald's and all that stuff. And like, sure, those things are, okay, he doesn't look like someone who prioritizes his health. But, if you listen to him talk, he prioritizes like stress management. I have to believe the guy, he's in his 90s. I have to believe that the guy goes to the doctor, or he gets the best tests, or he gets DEXA scans, or he gets all of the tests that help him prioritize and optimize his health. Even it's just like, hey doc, I want to have a Coke every day. And the doctor might be like, okay, well, either, take this nutrient or go for a walk or make sure that you sleep or make sure that you manage your stress. Like wealthy people prioritize their health, right? Now they're going to CrossFit. Some wealthy people are like biohacking and getting blood transfusions and all that stuff. But like, go for a walk. Like focus on how to manage your stress. Like again, free things that you can do to just optimize your health. Go to bed on time. Like get 8 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep. Like wake up with the sun when the sun wakes up. Like go to bed. Like circadian rhythm. Learn about health and get these things like implemented into your life. And again, I do all of these things, but yet it's not translating into my bank account yet, because I am, again, this experiment of one. I go to bed at 9:30. I'm up at 4:30 so that I can do a 20-minute workout. I can journal, I can meditate, and then I go for a daily walk in the afternoon. So I'm prioritizing my health. I have like got my health in check. Like I'm like losing the baby weight, if you will. I'm prioritizing my health because I want to have heart health. I want to have bone health. I'm 47. Maybe I'm in perimenopause. I don't know what's going on, but like I want to be primed and ready to like step into version 2.0, and version 2.0 has to be healthy, right? So health. The third one is that they are focused on solving problems. And this is like a two-parter, right? They don't complain. Like I don't want to say they don't complain a lot, because I think sometimes you hear wealthy people who are like really removed from the real world, where they're like, oh, like my employees want health benefits, right? Like you kind of hear those stories of like, oh, must be nice that you're like complaining about me wanting a livable wage, right? And I feel like that often is the narrative, but, and I'm not saying, and again, there is that. I have seen wealthy people be like, man, you just are not relatable to the real world. And now, but they're also like, I don't want to relate. I don't want to relate to watching TV all day and sleeping all day and being on my social media. No, I don't want to relate to that, right? And so, fair point, fair enough, right? But there is just inherently, they don't live in a space of like, let's just sit around and talk about like complaining, right? They are very solution focused. They are thinking about like, how do I solve this problem? Now, the person who I think is probably like a great business person is also the person who's like, how do I solve other people's problems? But I think inherently it always starts with, how do I solve this problem for myself? I have a problem, and how do I solve it? Instead of complaining about I don't have, it's how can I make this work? I think there's always this like, I don't have any money. How do I make this work? Instead of complaining about I don't have any money, I think wealthy people are always thinking about like how to solve their own problem, while also thinking about like, is this marketable? Is this something that that other people are suffering? Like I'm going to do some market research to see if this is a viable thing that will make me money. But inherently they are about solving problems. They are always observing and like thinking about like, what is missing? What is missing? What is missing? Instead of like, oh, I don't have, oh, this sucks, oh, my life sucks, oh, I don't think. There is just this like, what is missing? How do I solve this? Like, how do I optimize my workout? How do I optimize like my money? How do I, like, I just got to figure this out, right? Like there's just this, there's always just this like trying to solve a problem, which leads to like point number 4, which is they're always curious. They're always about learning. Like they're always reading books. They're reading philosophy. They're reading the classics because there is an understanding. They study history because they recognize that like this is not new. This has been here before. How did the previous people figure it out, right? How did the Stoics, how did the Greeks, how did the Romans, deal with war and famine and pestilence, and how did they deal, right? Like there is something to be said about studying history because you're like, this has been here before. If you have like the Handmaid's Tale is very popular and it's very timely. I've never watched it personally. It feels a little too real for me, and this is the point. But the author, Margaret Atwood, I think her name is, she talks about when she does research, she always bases her stories on real life events. And so you could go back into history and see that they tried to do these things to women. And at some point they were successful. And you're like, this could never happen in 2025. And she will be look at the story, look at 1925 or look at 1918. They were doing that to women. They were doing that to women, right? Priests, all this, like, again, I don't know Handmaid's Tale that well, but like just from what I can gather or pick up, she bases her stories on actual events. So she knows history. Wealthy people study history. They study patterns. They know that like there's an up and a down and it's a cycle, and they know this. And so they are just like, how do I prime myself? Like we're in this downturn. Again, if you think about history, you think about we had, World War I, and then there was the 20s. There was the stock market crash, and then we had the Roaring 20s, and then we had the stock market crash, and then we had the abundance in the 30s, and then we had World War II, and then there was the boomer generation. Like it was just, we're all in this cycle. Like history is always a cycle, right? Of good and bad, right? Good and bad, good and bad. We had the 70s of disco music after we had Vietnam. Like it was just, if you study history, you can see things are cyclical. Wealthy people know that. And so they're just like, how do I position myself to take advantage of the downturn that is going to happen? How do I protect myself from the downturn? And then in fact, how do I, prepare myself to go above and beyond the downturn when we are in the up cycle, right? So just, they study history, they read, they're learning, they're always learning, right? And they're trying to understand like very difficult concepts. They're reading books 4, 5, 6, 10 times. They will read the same book every year. Every year they'll read the same book. I read the Daily Stoic every year. There's a passage of it. I read it every year. And every year that I come to it, I learn something different about myself, about the world. Oh, like that's what they were talking about. I finally get it a little bit, right? So it is like, can you pick up books and read the book over and over and over and over and over again? Talk about it. I don't like know what that means. Join a book club. What is your interpretation? What do you think this is about? Like just sharing the knowledge. And the fifth and final thing is that they are always like running in similar circles, right? And so they're like you hear like they're always at these dinners, and they're always at conferences. They're always going to conferences. They're always going somewhere. They're going on vacation together. And again, before you like, well, it must be nice. Like I would guess I could afford that. I wish I had the time to right? Like, got it. But that doesn't stop you from being able to say like, how can I get together once a week with like a book club or like for us to learn about finances, or for us to learn about investing, for us to learn about baking, and maybe how do we pair baking with like feeding our families nutritional things. Like there's just, wealthy people are always running in the similar circles. And so it allows various things to happen. It allows people to see you and they're like, I like that person. I've seen them like at every dinner. We do the same, whatever. I guess we go to the same country club, whatever the thing is. It's not about like you're in these secret societies, which there are secret societies. I'm not going to lie. Like they are just like, I would not have ever known about this unless I was invited. Right. So knock on me. I was lucky. But there's what they know is like, you want to stay away from that person. That person is not reliable. They will take your money. They were such and such. Like that's daddy's money. They will tell you, they will talk amongst themselves, but they will also say, you got to reach out to such and such. They don't have as much money, but they're a thinker. They're an innovator. And so they start to make deals with each other. Right. They start to hey, I got an opportunity to get in on, I don't know, buying a building or buying a piece of art or buying an NBA team. You hear about these conglomerates, people are buying TikTok, right? Like they call each other up and they're like, hey, call up Jim and see what he's up to. If he wants to chip in, $1 billion to buy this team or to buy this, whatever, this asset, right? They're always in the room. And so therefore you're always getting the call, right? Not because, again, yes, you're in the room, but they've observed you and they like you and they're just like, you want to be part of this? You want to be part of this? I have gotten those phone calls, but I've always been like, I don't have the money, you guys. I really want to, but I can't afford it. And it's such and such. And again, I could say like maybe I have burned my bridges, but I think as I step into more opportunities and being able to embrace opportunities, I'm going to be like, I'm going to figure this out. Thanks for giving me the call. And yes, I absolutely want to be a part of this. I have just got to figure some things out, and I'm building that now. So I'm building that now, where I'm figuring out how to like eliminate debt. I'm learning how to like build assets so that I'm ready when not if, but when the next opportunity presents itself, I'm going to say like, yep, yep, I got it. I want to be in on this. I want to be invited to these dinners. I want to go to these conferences. And I love going to conferences that have nothing to do with like psychology. Like I went to a women's orthopedic surgeon conference in January. And I was around these brilliant doctors, women, right? And you're just like, but I'm learning about like hormone replacement therapy. I'm learning about osteoporosis. I'm learning about bone health. I'm like, damn, like I did not know any about this thing, right? Like I am I in perimenopause? Like I just heard this speaker, and these women, these doctors are in the room, and they're like kind of challenging each other to like up their game, but also like sharing the latest trends. Like, yeah, I've been studying this. Like, this person just did a study on this, and this is where we're finding like tremendous growth in this space. Like, they're getting in on the ground floor of some of these like technological things that they're like, we think in the next 5 years this is going to like blow up, right? All these people who in Silicon Valley or whatever, like they're like, they were not at the right place at the right time, but they like go to conferences and they learned from each other, and they're just kind of like, this is where we see these things going. Now the reality is there are some things that like something like crypto, right? Like how the insiders knew about crypto, I'm kind of like, I'm conservative, right? Wealthy people are like, I will give like 2% of my wealth to like crypto. I will test it out. I'll take a risk, sure, but I'm not going to put all my eggs in the crypto basket. Like if I lose $1 million, it's not going to hurt me, right? So they're kind of okay with taking the risk, right? But they're also in the rooms where they're like, there's this thing coming up. It's called crypto, and you're like, what? Right? And they're like, I have all my money in there. Although wealthy people do have diversified assets. They're not putting all their eggs in a basket unless they so believe in something that they're just like, I'm going to put a lot of money into this thing. But for the most part, they're like, I'll sprinkle in like whatever 1% of my net worth to this thing, and we'll try it out. But they wouldn't know that unless they're in the rooms. They wouldn't know that unless they're talking to other people about different things, right? Like I went to a speaking engagement with women in real estate. Like I am interested in real estate. I know nothing about real estate, but how do I learn? I just start to be in the rooms. I make connections. I'm like, what do you do? What's going on? I use my sort of psychological nature to just be curious. I'm like, wow, what? Okay, wait, tell me about this. Like, what? Wait, what? Like, and so people are like, yeah, like there's this thing and this thing and this, that. And you're just like, wow, holy Christmas. Like, wow. Okay. Like, I'm gonna learn more about this, right? And we are now in an age where you have access to all kinds of knowledge. A little bit too much, which becomes overwhelming because now you're like in analysis paralysis. Am I doing the avalanche, or am I doing the what is the snowball method, or am I doing the avalanche method? Like there's just like I don't know what to pick, right? So because there's so much. So I get that sometimes we are like inundated with information, and so it paralyzes us. But if you are in the rooms with people you trust, you start to say, okay, they told me that I should invest in crypto, and they're showing me how to do it in a way that like if I put $5 in it, I'm not going to lose my whole life savings, right? So they have taught me how to do that in a smart way, right? So I say all that to say, like I said, I have been like when I really sat down and thought about like what are the habits of the people who I want to be like in version 2.0 of me. I'm like, I already do these things. So what the F, man? What the F, Ed? Like, why don't I have that? And then again, it's like I peel back the layers and I'm curious and I'm recognizing like, oh, in part, I've never seen anyone look like me be in those spaces. I was the person who was like, that's for them, that's for other people. Oh, I don't want to be wealthy. Like if I become wealthy, like I won't be relatable anymore. And I won't be able to help people, and I want to be relatable, and I want to be a role model for people and all that thing. So let me stay poor, let me stay small, let me stay conservative. Let me follow along with what my parents taught me. Again, as to be a black female, immigrant in this country. It's like we don't make waves. Like you just put your head down and you work, right? And so it's about undoing these internalized messages that have kept me stuck, even though I have been exposed to these things. That's the work that I'm doing in 2026, with the hope that I hope I'm betting right on this gamble, this experiment, because I would like to come to you in 2026 and be like, guys, I cracked the code. I cracked the code. But here's a start, right? So the 5 things that wealthy people do, that I have observed wealthy people do, is they expose themselves to art and music, very little TV watching, lots of exposure to museums and libraries, like science, just going to concerts, listening to classical music, listening to ballet, listening to just, things that prime your brain for success, right? Just to see the world differently. So they expose themselves to art and music, very little TV watching. They are focused on solving problems. They're not focused on just sitting around and complaining. They're focused on primarily maybe solving a problem for themselves, but also thinking about how to solve a problem for the world. They are they avoid being around people who complain, right? Like it's just like, are you just gonna sit here and complain all day, or are you gonna try to solve the problem? They are prioritizing their health, getting good sleep, optimizing your diet, if you will, outsourcing, your diet, getting good sleep, getting good stress management. Again, you don't have to, outsource your meals, but it's like you could cook a healthier meal or go get your blood work, make sure that you're A-okay in your body. Go get your preventative maintenance appointments, right? Get those things done. Always being curious, always wanting to learn, always reading history, always studying history, learning about patterns in history, and then priming yourself, seeing the writing on the wall, seeing the pattern, and then priming yourself for the pattern, right? Being able to say, we're in a down market. Okay, what did they do back in the 1800s? What did they do back in the 1700s? What did they do back then, right? What did they do in the 1950s? What did they do in the 1970s? And seeing patterns, because humans, hate to say it, we're kind of a predictable race. And so you're just kind of humans are humans. So what did we do? This is usually cyclical. What goes around comes around. It's what did they do? How can I learn from the past so that I can prepare for the future? So they're always curious. They're always learning. They are always running in similar circles, not just to make deals, but to understand who they want to do business with, or who they want to have as friends, who they want to have more of, what kind of energy they want to be around, and what type of people they want to avoid. What type of people that they want to observe time after time after time, or is someone who is just reliable, someone who is conscientious, someone who is kind, or someone who is just a user, an abuser. Just thinking about those things. So I hope that this was helpful. Again, this is my attempt to experiment on version 1.0 to become version 2.0. And so join me, subscribe, follow along, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Again, you will see this when you need to see this, whether you're going to see this from the ground floor and you're going to see me stumble my way through version 2.0 of myself, or you're going to see me at the tail end of it, and I'm going to be able to crack the code and show you how I did it and give you the exact steps. Follow along. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.